Okay, this is now the 5-minute tarot for the 23rd of February 2017. And today I'd like to suggest a good way to start a reading. No, this is for anybody, a beginner or whoever it happens to be. So if I say to you, how do I get to New York City? You can say, go south, right? But if I'm in Los Angeles, I'm never going to get to New York City if I go south. And the point about this is we need a starting point. If you're going to give somebody instructions or directions on how to get to a certain place or how to answer a question or what the best answer would be or the best activity or action would be to get the result that you want, you need to know the starting point. Because there's no point, and there's no point in, and maybe there is a point, but it's more effective if you know, if you've got a starting point, then you know how to get to wherever it is that you want to go. So we need to know where we are. And at the beginning of a tarot reading, it can be useful if you, the reader, pick a card. Right, so you shuffle for a moment, and let's say you know what the question is, but you want to know what kind of person is this, or what kind of state of mind are they in, or how should I talk to them. So if you shuffle, and you don't need to tell the question of what you're doing, but you pick a card and you just glance at it, and let's say you get the Three of Swords. Maybe if you're dealing with a Three of Swords type of person, you maybe understand, you treat them differently and you say different things or say the same thing in a different way if the person is represented by the Sun card or the Three of Swords, right? So if it's a Sun card, you know they've got confidence or they've got skill and they've got expectations and high hopes for the future, let's say. But if somebody's got the Three of Swords, the first thing they need to do is get their confidence back, maybe, or deal with an upset or a sense of loss or a sense of defeat, right? So if you, the reader, pick a card at random, you know the starting point, or you know a starting point, and you can answer the question based on that particular starting point. So you can pick a card at random and see what you get, but if the questioner is in the room with you and you pick a card and start talking, the questioner can feel left out, or they can feel, okay, I'm here and this person opposite has the answers and I'm just kind of asking the question. So the question can feel left out, or that they're not really part of it because you just start speaking and they haven't done anything. So you could give them the deck, get them to shuffle for a moment and pick a card. And because they started the ball rolling, so to speak, by picking, let's say, the Three of Swords, you can talk about sadness and loss and defeat. And they're going to appreciate that, okay, I may not like what I'm hearing, but I picked the card, I picked the Three of Swords. So in some way, it's relevant or it's important for me to hear this. So that in many ways worked better than the reader just talking, because the questioner is more directly involved in the answer, not just asking the question, but in the answer itself, because they picked the first card to get an idea. And maybe you explain to them, okay, we want an idea of where you are at the moment, what the beginning point is going to be. And you chose the Three of Swords, so blah, 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 and you talk about it. So some people don't like the questioner to shuffle the cards or to handle the cards. But if you say, okay, we're going to get a starting point and I pick the Four of Swords, the questioner isn't really involved. So instead of having them feel left out, maybe, you can ask them to pick a number between 0 and 22. And then you talk about the major trump that belongs with that particular number. So if they pick the number 6, you say, okay, you're at crossroads in your life and blah, blah. And you talk about crossroads and the idea of doing what you've been taught to do or developing a new understanding and going in a different direction from the one you've been brought up to go in. Or if the number they pick is 15 for the devil, you would talk about whatever you talk about for whatever you understand by the devil. But maybe you indicate, okay, we look at the picture and we've got the man and the woman with the chain around their neck, so you feel trapped. And you develop it from there. So at the same time, although the questioner is getting the ball rolling, so to speak, but they're not handling the cards if you don't want them to handle cards, but they're nevertheless giving you the number. And they can think, okay, I picked a number. I don't know what it means, but this is I'm being told something about the number that I chose. So in this way too, the starting point is with the questioner, or what is said is begun by input, or is based on input from the questioner, which is probably a better way to go than just the questioner talking without any kind of starting point given by the questioner. There's the question, of course, but if we're concerned about making getting the questioner to feel that they're part of the answer as well, then picking a card or picking a number is a good way to go. That's it. Tomorrow we look at the strength card. Okay, thanks very much. Bye-bye.